Press interview room here at the 2025 Farmers Insurance Open. Charlie, you're very familiar with this tournament, obviously coming from here and making your 27th start this week. That's it's pretty hard to believe, isn't it, really?
Answer that question, yeah. I know I was 16 when I first qualified for the event. I think I played it when I was 17. So I didn't do the math that it was my 27th appearance, but I've been counting like 31 or 2 years I've been playing this event, which is kind of nuts if you think about it. But if it wasn't because of this amateur qualifier back then, as I said, sit on the range when I was 16, 17 years old, playing against the best in the world and watching them play and being out there, it sort of gave me the juices to want to play professional golf. And it definitely was a stepping stone of what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
Just coming in here, obviously, off a really good performance last week. You were the 36-hole co-leader, and finished top 5. Just talk about your performance there and having that confidence coming in here, bringing it to somewhere that you're really familiar with.
Yeah, this is the first off season I've actually been able, in the last probably 3 to 4 years, I've been able to work and practice and play and work out. And in the past, it was like, all right, how do I get ready to even tee it up on the PGA Tour? Back wasn't any good. So into last year was nice, and then took some time off and then strengthened everything and was able to work on the game. And obviously, it showed. Played halfway, actually hit the ball really good in Hawaii, didn't putt very good. And then last week sort of put both of them together and had a chance coming down Sunday. And obviously, Seth played amazing, and he forced my hand late in that round, and I didn't take advantage of the par 3 that I sort of went after. But obviously, good memories there. I'd won there in 07, my second year on tour, and obviously momentum coming to this event is great. Body feels good again. Short week of rest, but being home, that helps me more than anybody, and not having to pound practice rounds out here because I've played 27 times. But so I took 9 holes at a time, but obviously going to ride that wave and ride that momentum and hopefully try to knock off the Farmers win out here. Obviously, this is the one I'd love to win. Other than a major championship, I think this one or Phoenix would probably be the 2 that I'd put on my list for W.
Take some questions. We'll start with Todd.
Charlie, did the back get bad enough in those couple of years where you wondered if you would even be out here at some point?
The answer is yes. I remember just like putting on shoes and doing stuff like that. You're like, am I ever going to be able to play at what I know I need to be able to, health-wise, be able to play professional golf again? And there was a period of time where I was doing anything just to start and get a start out here. Not even being able to put any reps in. Just how can I play 4 rounds of golf during a tournament, in which I found very unproductive and not very competitive. But now being able to put the reps in, I think it's mentally and physically that you have to be in the right frame of mind to be able to compete against, last week 17-year-olds and young 20-year-olds. Guys are just much better, much more prepared than I was at that age. So the answer to that question is 100%. I wasn't sure if I'd ever be competitive out here again, and obviously last year in Phoenix was competitive. The rest of the year wasn't up to my liking, but this year obviously starting off on the right foot, giving myself contention to win. As I tell people, obviously I'm creeping up on the 50 and the PGA Tour champions, and looking forward to it. But as long as I'm competing to win golf tournaments on the PGA Tour, I want to be out here. I want to beat these young guys. I want to walk down the fairway, and it's fun. It gives me energy. It just I get a kick out of competing against these kids, and I as long as I'm still competing to win golf tournaments, I want to stay out here.
How did you fix the back?
Just a lot of rehab and put a good team together. Just trusted a lot of people. Did a lot of work in the gym. Just it's not a huge weight training you see in the college football or NFL, but it's just repetitive stuff. Just to strengthen the muscles around my back and glutes, just making everything stronger to reprieve my back a little bit. A few machines, lots of cold tubs, lots of infrared saunas and stuff like that. I spend more time on recovery, my body now, than I do practicing and banging it up. So it's a lot of recovery. If it says recovery next to its name, I probably own it. I'll try anything.
I wanted to ask you about this tournament. No one in this tournament goes back as far as you do at this point. It's obviously changed a lot through the years. Are you a little bit concerned about where it now falls on the schedule amid all the signature events, the Wednesday start? It's incredibly difficult. Are you concerned that maybe the younger guys don't value the Torrey experience as much, or that tour players in general just aren't finding their way here as much as they did before?
Well, that's a very loaded question, Todd. The answer is, I think the community of San Diego took for granted that Tiger Woods virtually showed up every single year at this event, the best player in the world, and competed to win almost every time he played here, and we took it for granted. Now, if you would ask a lot of these tournaments, if you had Tiger Woods 2 or 3 times through the history of the event, they were happy. We had the Tiger Woods each and every year, and we may have taken it for granted. The field is fairly strong. Is it a bad date? I wouldn't say it's a bad date. It's just a tough date. I mean, if I had the crystal ball and the jug, I may juggle up the whole schedule and not even play a West Coast swing in the West Coast, maybe play Florida first and maybe play the West Coast more in the summer when we all want to be in San Diego. If I was commissioner for the day, I would take a look at the schedule and just jumble it all up and see where should we start the PGA Tour season? Where is the best time to play these events? And do we have to play the whole West Coast on the West Coast right after each other? Maybe, maybe not. I think that's stuff that they're. Thank God I'm not on the board or doing any of that stuff any longer. But I think that's something they're looking at right now. I don't know where this tournament could fall better, but does it have to be in January? I'd say no. You could have this tournament any time of the year here in San Diego, and it's all better time of the year than it is now. Usually, we all know in San Diego. I mean, this is the hardest month of all for. We're going to get good weather this week, it looks like, but in the past it's been a tough week. But I think the answer to the question is it is sort of a tough week for guys in the schedule, coming off Hawaii, coming off a short week. American Express has turned into an amazing event again, which it was when I grew up watching the Bob Hope and that event. It was a premier event. It's turned back into a premier event again, and it's had its effect on this week, especially with the signature event right after it. And not to mention now you have 2 out of 3 weeks pro-ams, which it takes a toll. And then Torrey's a short week. So you nailed it. It is a tough date as of right now. As we know, I think the football schedule changed next year. I think it's going to be a Sunday finish ideally next year for us, or try to find a way to do that. But I don't think anything's off the table on the PGA Tour when this event could fall to make it a better date.
Sorry, one more. Do you think the difficulty, Charlie, this early in the season, you go from pretty benign golf courses to this? Do you think that it doesn't scare guys off, but does it turn them off a little bit that they don't want to necessarily compete on this type of golf course this early in the season?
No, I don't. I think you look at it strategically. The schedule is like, obviously, you got signature events and major championships, and those are at the top, and you sort of schedule around that. How are you going to be prepared for those major championships, the Players' Championships, and the signature events? How are you going to peak at that point in time? Because the points are so loaded in those events, and people are looking at, well, do I go play 2 golf courses, traditionally very hard golf courses, and is that the best preparation for the 2 signature events I have coming up? It could or couldn't. Some people love the challenge, and it may make those tournaments feel easier to them if they come out here and play well at Torrey Pines. It just matters what you're looking for and what you want. Tiger always rises up to the challenge. He loved it here. He played here each and every year. You could pick any golf course to play, and he chose here to play. And it just matters sort of what you want. But it is how you going to peak and be ready for those big tournaments now. And it's just a different way to look at it with the signature events for sure.
The feeling was incredibly different with Tiger here, right? I mean, than anywhere else, essentially, right?
We took it for granted. There's not a question in my mind. Someone who's played here for over 30 years, you took it for granted that Tiger Woods was going to show up here, and the city of San Diego was going to have the best player in the world each and every year at its event. And it's sort of reality. We're in reality now of what every other city has to deal with without Tiger Woods or the best player in the world playing here. Unfortunately, Xander, one of the best players in the world, has an injury. He's traditionally played here, and you can't. Isaiah's trying to get ready to win more major championships. There's no reason to push it early in the year and hurt himself more. So you're going to see guys taking this week off if it stays in this state, no question.
All right, over this side, John.
Charley, nothing official yet, but looks like the Genesis will be moving here as a California kid and longtime California resident. Do you think it's important that that tournament stays in California?
Yeah, you know what? Obviously, first and foremost, my head's wrapping around the Farmers this week and trying to prepare for this golf tournament and Farmers, what they've done for the community for so many years here, and try to put on a good show for that. Genesis, obviously, the platform that we're going to have to be able to raise awareness of what happened in the Palisades is going to be a few weeks' time. But I don't know when that's going to be announced. I don't know where it's going to be played. But obviously, with the fondness back to Tiger again that he has for Torrey Pines, it seems like an easy fit. But right now, each and every guy in this field's working to get into Genesis like myself if they're not in it. And obviously, as a hometown kid, I'm wishing it comes here. But if it's in Florida, Palm Springs, or somewhere else, I'm still trying to work my way into that event to try to play against the best in the world. But I think the platform here in San Diego would be a very logical place to put it. But there's so many logistics when moving an event 3 or 4 weeks out. I mean, hotels, volunteers, rebranding the site. There's so much that tour has to do, and that's a tough task, and I know they're up for it. But it no matter where they go, it's going to be a tough task to get everything figured out. But it does make the most sense go. I think I read 123 miles south and go to San Diego, especially this is a major championship golf course. It's going to play like a major championship this week. If we don't get any rain, it's firm, it's fast, long, the grass is long, and you can keep that for another 2 weeks for sure. And it does make sense, but like I said, each and every one of these guys in this field are thinking about this week in Farmers and how we can put a great show on for them and support them how they supported us in the past.
MK, before we take your question, I just want to jump over to Charley again. You just mentioned Genesis in last year. You got into that tournament via the Aon Swing 5. You're currently in the Aon Swing 5 from your performance last week, and I just wanted to get your perspective on that program. Obviously, you're probably a strong advocate for it, given the situation that you've experienced. But just, what do you think of that program, and how do you think it benefits a lot of these tour members? Yeah,
the Aon Swing 5 is crucial to this signature, getting new, I would say, blood into the events. You have the 10 that qualify themselves in the fall, which I think is great, but now you have the 5, and then it goes back to the Swing 10 again. But the Aon Swing 5, it gave me a chance to play the signature event last year. It gives everybody hope to get into the events that play against the best in the world and compete against the best in the world. So the Aon Swing 5, I don't know the exact number, but we had over 30 different new people, I think, playing the events that weren't in them last year, which is what you want. We didn't want it. Everybody thought it was going to be shut off. We had all different people, from rookies to veterans to anybody getting those events, and it really did a great job last year getting new blood in those events and being able to tell storylines. And I remember sitting in the boardroom saying, "Hey, we got to make sure that this isn't a closed-off tour," and the Swing 5 and the 10 definitely made that happen, and I think better than we actually predicted.
And that incentive is obviously pretty strong for you, again, being the position you're in right now.
Yeah, obviously, the West Coast is key to my year, getting off on a strong foot and being able to play hopefully next week at Pebble or in the Genesis, if it does come down here or wherever it is. But I love that it rewards guys that are playing good golf. There's a rookie could finish 5th, or a guy that took a career money list can earn their way into those events, and it gives people hope that. And that's sort of any golfer that tees up. You want to have hope to be able to play against the best in the world, and you have the opportunity to do that. And the Aon Swing 5 definitely does that.
Excellent. Sorry, MK, go ahead.
You had mentioned being 17 and being on the driving range. And I'm just wondering, when you were 17 and you walked on the driving range, was there anyone that you were starstruck by at that time, or that you wanted to get advice from?
I don't think I didn't know anything back then, to be honest with you. But I obviously had watched the guys on tour. I remember sitting in the stall and Stadler was to my left and like Jacobson to my right, and I'm like, I think Jacobson maybe had won like the week prior, and like I'm a kid in a candy store. I mean, it's the best thing in the world, and my dad was caddying for me. I mean, I just didn't know any better. Obviously, young and dumb at 16, 17, I thought I could do it and thought I could compete against these guys. But I remember, I think I 3-putted the first 3 holes, and I mean, I obviously had some nerves, but I was just having so much fun, just watching them. And I always learn from like watching guys. I don't think I ever really asked anybody at that point in time any advice, but I just watched them, what they did and how they prepared and what they did to be great. And but the juices I got that week was what made me want to play professional golf. There's not a question in my mind.
Speaking of 17-year-olds, who was one that played last week at the
Yeah,
Amic,
Blades.
did you get to meet Blades Brown? Or?
Blades was on my junior President's Cup team in Montreal, so I knew Blades. Blades is a great kid. I said this last week. He's awesome, and obviously, as I said, if he would ask me for some advice, I don't know if I would have told him to turn pro at 17, especially with all this NIL money. If you could get NIL money, and I mean, college was maybe some of the best times of all our lives. Definitely myself. You sort of lose that turning pro at 17, but as far as I know, the PGA Tour is not going anywhere. I would have gave it a couple years, even if he was a world beater, which he is a world beater. Obviously, showing that I think he shot 8 under the second round. I mean, putting those numbers up as a 17-year-old in the PGA Tour events, pretty remarkable. But it's tough. It's tough sledding out here on the PGA Tour. It's not easy, and nothing's given. I mean, you got to put the numbers up, no matter if you're 17 or 48. You got to post numbers. The ball doesn't know how old you are, but he's obviously tuned in and ready to play good golf and go low. And I look forward to hopefully competing against Blades a few more years before I transition on.
I don't know if you know that you were this close to competing him again this week. He was in a Monday qualified playoff and missed in a.
I did see that, so I'm sure he's going to get a few more sponsor invites, and I'll see him out a few more times this year. And but he's I expect bright things in the future for him.
And just finally, you mentioned the Junior President's Cup team. What was that experience like for you, captaining that team?
Yeah, it's one of those. I didn't know how involved I was going to be, how much I was going to get into it, or let them just play golf. And I definitely had the juices going. Wanted to just teach them. They're so raw. Just teach them that you don't have to shoot at every pin, that you don't have to birdie every hole, and sort of stuff like that. And they took it all in. And my caddy Andy Barnes and I came out there, and we just sort of mentored them more than anything. Obviously, once they got on the golf course, let them go play golf, but just sort of game plan strategy, how to map a golf course when you're walking around instead of just playing. But they were all great kids. We had, and it was a great match. Graham Gillette had a great team for the international team, and it was a ton of fun. And then we took them over to the President's Cup after that and walked a practice round and got to go in the locker room with the real President's Cup team. And those guys were obviously very gracious to the team, and it was just a total blast.
Do you feel like you came away from that with a little more incentive, or for your own game after being around those young kids?
There's no question. I love feeding off the young kids and their energy, and just the fearlessness they play with, and that's something at the older age you sometimes get a little conservative out there, which I wouldn't say has always been my suit, but sometimes you notice it and how fearless these young kids are playing the game of golf, and definitely it gave me a little bit of energy to want to play better.
All right, we'll take one from the left here.
Charley, Poway's finest. Charley, when you come back home and play in front of family and friends and just get out here, and whether you do good or bad, how cool is that for you just to be back home and just swinging the sticks in front of your family and friends?
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, I did it when I was young out here and had a ton of family and friends, and they're still out here supporting me. And it's sort of crazy to think that I always look up. Phil no longer playing the PGA Tour, but he was the guy, and I always looked up to him, and he always supported the hometown event, and now I'm sort of the older guy, and hopefully we get the town out here supporting me and putting a show for them. But it's great to have the local fans. I mean, I think this community rallies around the Padres, rallies around the local San Diego people, and I can't wait to see them hopefully late on Saturday.
Do you have one last one, Todd?
Charlie, did you get any like Uncle Charlie nicknames from those young guys or anything? I mean, were they needling you about your age or anything, still being out? What was the interaction?
It's funny you say that. Some of the guys they're so young that they don't. I wouldn't say they don't. Haven't been that competitive in like 3 years. So they know who I was, but they don't really know who I am. Then I'll pick up a wedge and I'm like, maybe you should hit a shot like that. And I'm like, oh, you do know what you're doing. It's sort of interesting that these kids are so raw that I played majority of my career before they were born, or some of it before they were born. You go on a side note, Eric Weddle's a good friend of mine, and Eric Weddle's is coaching, played safety for the Chargers, whoever doesn't know that, and then Baltimore, and then won the Super Bowl with the Rams, but he was coaching RB High with his son as of late, and I ran into him, and he said, it's really weird, these kids never watch me play in the NFL because they're so young. Not that they don't respect them, but they don't really, the pedigree of Eric Weddle teaching you don't really, these young kids, I think, take it for granted almost that what they have in front of them. But it's hard sometimes because you got to step back and go, I do know what I'm doing, but let them. I've always been an advocate of you have to learn from your mistakes and then learn from that, and you can teach them from those situations. And it's these kids are fearless, and until they make mistakes, you've got nothing to say to them. But they definitely respect. To answer your question, total respect from all these young kids. They were awesome, and the international team also. And it was a blast to be a part of it and see and leave it at this. Is the future of our game of golf is very bright, and they're very, very good kids, and it's going nowhere. People are passionate. The young kids are passionate about the game, competing, and doing it the right way.
All right, Charlie, we appreciate the time,
Yep.
and good luck this week.
Yep.
Hometown event.
Appreciate it.